Hi. So, the book The Good Earth by Perlis Book. In this book, we have Wang Lung, who purchases a wife, Olan, and this is set in China about 100 years ago, super patriarchal. It still is today. Anyhow, so this wife, they have a firstborn child who's a son, and so with that, a lot of good fortune comes. Their crops start to improve. They start to make money and everything. Then they have a second child, another son, and this continues to happen. Their wealth continues to prosper. So then comes the third child, who's a daughter though, and then their fortune starts to decline. Their crops start to fail, and then they're forced to move out of this house, out of their farm, and they move south to an unknown city in the south. So with this, Wang Lung has to work as a rickshaw pulling around a cart, and the sons and the mom, Olan, have to be beggars on the street. With this, this continues for quite a while, about 3 chapters. And so eventually the commoners start to overtake the wealthy landowners because at this time there was the Boxer Rebellion. So with that, the wealthy landowners were run out, and the commoners or the peasants they all took over and started looting the houses. So Wang Lung goes, and he's fortunate enough to take gold coins, and Olan herself gets jewelry. So they have enough now to move up back to the farm, and they do so, and they start to have wealth. They start to prosper again with farming and all that. So they become the new big family of that land, and they start to prosper. All the crops start to improve and everything. So all this is good. Now we have a lot of family issues. The uncle, evil uncle, I guess, and the evil aunt. They're forcibly moved into Wang Lung's house, and they're not really that major of characters, but anyhow, eventually he sends his sons to be educated, and then with that, Olan dies, and he starts to take multiple concubines. He has the first concubine, Lotus, and a second concubine, Blossom, Pear Blossom, and they continue to prosper. But eventually, there comes a great flood. It washes out all the crops, and with that, it starts to decline. His fortune starts to decline and everything. The sons come back, now being educated. They sort of reject everything of the father. So at the end of the book, Wang Lung makes a promise, or has the son make a promise, that they won't sell this land, land that's been run in the family for generations. But clearly, with the last lines of the book, it sort of foretells that the sons are lying and that they're going to sell the book, or not the book, sorry, but the land itself. And so that is a big summary of The Good Earth. Thanks.
Okay, so the character I got for our Lit Circle video thing was Wang Lung's father, and applying the law of, well, no, Kohlberg's theory of moral development, I say definitely grows throughout the book. But how? Well, at the beginning of the book, he's definitely in stage one, which he makes decisions of his own self-interest without even considering any others. So an example of this is at the beginning of the book, when he's choosing Wang Lung a wife, Wang Lung asks if she can be pretty. He says no, she must be ugly and hardworking. This is exactly what Wang Lung gets. And when, towards the middle of the book, he is in stage two, which he recognizes others' needs, but makes his own needs higher priority. An example of this is when they are first moving to the city, and he only begs for money for one day, so that way his family can get money, but all the other days he does not beg so he can keep his honor. And towards the end of the book, he is in stage 4, which means he sees society as unchangeable. An example of this is when he calls Lotus, Wang Lung's second wife, he calls her a harlot, which is basically a prostitute. And before her and Wang Lung were married, she basically was a prostitute. So he still sees her as a prostitute then. This was Wang Lung's father, and applying the law, Kohlberg's theory of moral development to him. There you go. Later.
So in the book Good Earth by Perlis Buck, the main protagonist is Wang Lung, and he has an uncle who is only in the book to show the importance of filial piety and respect to your elders. in Chinese culture. So the uncle is in the pre-moral level, stage 1, punishment, avoidance, and obedience throughout the whole entire book. All he does is take and he makes decisions, moral decisions, strictly on self-interest. He does this throughout the whole book. So the first time we see him talk to Wang Lung and interact is on page 63, and he basically requests for Wang Lung to give him money because he's rich and because Wang Lung is rich and he's poor. And Wang Lung's like, you don't do any work, you don't control your children, why do I need to give you money? But he has to at the end. And then this happens again after Wang Lung has lost so much and he eats his own ox. He has to give him more food and support him. And until he can't support him anymore, and then the uncle turns all of his neighbors against Wang Lung and he gets robbed. This is shown. Then there was also like assumptions that he was eating his own children because he was hungry and things like that. So you can really see that he's really like he's based on like self-preservation and preserving himself. He does this throughout the book again after they buy the house of Wang and make it the house of Wang, and Wang Lung takes his uncle under his wing, and then he introduces Wang Lung's son to prostitution and tries to seduce Wang Lung's daughter. So that's the progression through The Good Earth. He's a very static character, and he's going to be in the pre-moral levels, avoidance and obedience, his whole life. Thank you.
In The Good Earth, the main character Wang Lung remains in stage 4 of Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development. However, as the story progresses, Wang Lung moves from stage 4 to stage 5. In this Chinese society, Wang Lung follows society's expectations of how he should act. This is evident when Wang Lung's uncle asks him for money. Wang Lung calls his uncle out for being lazy, and the uncle threatens to tell the whole village of Wang Lung's behavior. In a society that preaches filial piety, Wang Lung is expected to show respect to his elders. To avoid being shamed by the village, Wang Lung gives his uncle the money. While Wang Lung and his family stay in South China, Wang Lung punishes his sons for stealing and believes they must follow the law. At this point in the book, Wang Lung demonstrates several actions of one in stage 4. However, as times continue to stay rough, Wang Lung transfers into the 5th stage. In stage 5, he finds flexibility in the laws and makes an exception in following the law when he steals gold from a rich man's house. By stealing this gold, Wang Lung is ignoring society's laws, and although he still believes law should be followed, he also now understands that exceptions can be made.
So we have Wang Lun's son, who goes through multiple stages of Kohlberg's theory of moral development. With stage 1, he steals the meat in order to save himself, and he disobeys the rule, but he doesn't get caught. He runs away, brings it back home, and feeds himself. Then he transitions to stage 2, the exchange of favors. So after stage 1, his father, Wang Lun, had scolded him about stealing, but he continues to do so because he realizes that he needs food in order to survive. He realizes that it's a higher priority. His necessities are higher than others' needs. So he continues to steal. Eventually he moves to the conventional level with stage 3, being the good boy. At this point in the story, Wang Lun's father wants him, the son, to go to school in order to be educated, to be knowledgeable, so that he can help out Wang Lung himself. So the father sends him to school, and the boy agrees. He's like, yeah, sure, totally, I want to go to school. And this is in order to maintain personal relations, being the good boy. Eventually, he moves to stage 4, law and order. So he comes back from being educated and everything, and he's now a modernized boy. He throws away or disregards the father's old antiquities, the father's values, Confucianism in general, the relationship from father to son, filial piety. He throws all of this away because now he's modern, throws all this away. So we've seen this boy now transition from stage 1 all the way to stage 4, transitioning through 4 levels. With this, he's gone through so many stages, and it is natural because Kohlberg's theory of moral development is all about humanity, or humans in general, transition from young age all the way to an adult and so forth. So really, the son is a really good example of this theory of moral development.